Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jayo Vrindavan Dham. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtottara Sat Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivarajacharya Ashtottara Sat Shri Srimad Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopika Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Vartamana Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone. Today we are studying the second chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. Text 57. Ya sarvatra anabhisnehas tat prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā.
Ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā. Ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi
tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā.
Ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā pratiṣṭhitā. Ya sarvatrānabhisnehas prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya prajñā
Ya sarvatrānabhisnehas tatra prāpya śubhāśubham nābhinandati dveṣṭi tasya pratiṣṭhitā. Word to word meaning. Ya, one who, sarvatra, everywhere, anabhisnehaḥ, without affection, tat, that, prāpya, achieving, śubha, good, aśubham, evil, never, abhinandati, praises, never, dveṣṭi, envies, tasya, his, prajñā, perfect knowledge, pratiṣṭhitā, fixed. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Purport. There is always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is not affected by good and evil because he is simply concerned with Kṛṣṇa and who is all good absolute. Such consciousness in Kṛṣṇa situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samādhi. Om ajnānatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam. Jayo Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before we go into the discussion of today's verse, first I seek for the blessings of all gathered Vaishnavas. I don't have any realizations on this particular verse, and I'm least and most unqualified. But still, I'm sharing my understanding, and hopefully one day this kind of realization will dawn upon me as well. So we'll just see a quick overview of chapter 2. What is chapter 2 all about? So this is where the whole Gita is summarized. This is the contents of the Gita summarized. And the first section, first 10 verses, Arjuna is still indecisive. He has given so many arguments why he doesn't want to fight. And then finally there is a transition that he is going to accept Kṛṣṇa as his guru. Then verses 11 to the 30, Kṛṣṇa starts explaining the difference between the body and the soul based on the Sankhya philosophy. And then why Arjuna has to perform his duty and give up the enjoyment tendency. Then 31 to 37 verses, Kṛṣṇa talks about sakama karma. So where he is asking Arjuna to perform his duty, and along with the performance of the duty, he will also endure some enjoyment, which is acceptable. And then 38 to 53, Kṛṣṇa talks about nishkama karma yoga. Now he's asking Arjuna to act on the platform of bhakti-yoga, where you act in a detached way, where you would not incur any reactions. Now this is the last section that we are in. This is verses from 54 to 72, where Kṛṣṇa speaks about sthita prajñā, qualities of a liberated person. He is actually a jivan mukta. What is a jivan mukta? Even being in this present material world, he still is liberated. So Arjuna poses some questions. How is it possible? What are the symptoms? How do I know that a person is actually liberated even being situated in the material world? Can I identify by some symptoms? Then Kṛṣṇa starts explaining the symptoms of the sthita prajñā. And 56 and 57 are the response to the question that Arjuna asked. What was the question? Sorry. How do I identify him? How does he speak and what is his language? So 56 and 57 is about his speech. And 58 to 63 will be talking about how the sthita prajñā is sitting. And 64 to 71 is how he is engaged in sense engagement. How is he walking? So 57, Kṛṣṇa says, anyone who is not affected by whatever good or evil. So he's already presenting that there is good and evil. There is good and bad in this material world. And one is not affected by it. And neither one praises it or neither one despises it. That means that you don't appreciate the good, neither you put down the evil, but you're very unaffected. Now here is an important word, anabhisnehaḥ. It means that without affection. Now how can we act without being affectionate? Anything that we do in this world, we have some affection for it, right? Even if it's an evil response, like we are reacting to some evil, we still get affected, and because we are affected, affection for us, we react in a certain negative way to it, right? So there is an affection always in us. So here Kṛṣṇa is sounding that this person is emotionless, this person doesn't have any affection. But what we tend to forget to see is, here this person is prajñā pratiṣṭhitā. He is perfectly situated in perfect knowledge. So what is perfect knowledge? The knowledge that we are hearing, that we are applying, and then we are realizing. When a person is able to understand, apply, and realize, that is the perfection of that knowledge. So anyone who hears the transcendental knowledge, who applies this transcendental knowledge, the effect, the realization of that knowledge is that he becomes protected from this good and evil, from this, what is it? Praise. He is not affected whether someone praises it or whether someone does not praise it. So he is protected. He becomes very protected. Now the question comes, how is he protected? He is protected because he is situated in the perfect knowledge. And what is this perfect transcendental knowledge about? Realizing who is he and his relationship with Kṛṣṇa. So when he understands he is the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa, he starts to engage in devotional service. And engaging in devotional service is creating this protection around him, because his internal situation is focused on Kṛṣṇa's happiness. His internal situation, he is internally very focused about what is good according to Kṛṣṇa and what is bad according to Kṛṣṇa. His acceptance and rejection of the world is based upon how I can give pleasure to Kṛṣṇa and how I don't. We can see even in the example of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, whenever there are big book scores, like the lot number of books are sold, then that used to give Prabhupada a lot of happiness. At the same time, if someone is left the moment or someone has fallen down, Prabhupada used to feel bad. But that never brought any change in his personality or in his continuation of his devotional service. So Prabhupada is our example of sthita prajñā, who is living in that perfect knowledge. He is continuing his devotional service, by preaching others how to come to Krishna consciousness. Now, before we go in further discussion, I wanted to take you back and then we'll understand few words of this shloka. Now, Krishna is talking about śubha and aśubham. So, what is śubha? That is the piety, the goodness. And aśubha means the evil, the impiety. Now, we all know that impiety is never helpful for our devotional service. So, how is that even the piety is not helpful? That why we have to disregard piety? Because if you are not pious, how would you even appreciate Krishna consciousness? Sometimes this question can come, right? Being pious is important. But then Kunti Maharani explains, she recites this beautiful offering, Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribir Edamana Madapumam Naivartanti Abhinathum Vai Tvam Akincham Gocharam. So, my Lord, your Lordship can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So, Prabhupada in that purport writes that we already have this material fever, and it's very high. Now, instead of increasing this material fever, we have to decrease the material fever. Recovery means we have to reduce the fever. And how do we reduce the fever? By taking the proper treatment. And then sometimes the spiritually advanced people, they're materially improvised. They're not materially very flourishing. But still, Prabhupada says that's a very good conditioning, because they still are able to call out to Krishna. So, this condition is good because the temperature is falling down. But someone is materially very pious, but they are not coming to Krishna. So, it's still an impiety. So, first we have to understand everything, if Krishna is not involved, then although it may seem to look like it's piety, it's a good thing, it's still impiety. It's still not very acceptable. But piety also has good things about it. Any person who is pious in this life, it is a reflection of the spiritual world, right? Pious means what? You being very kind, being compassionate, you being tolerant, and you learn to apply the Shastra in your life, and you are very equibalanced. And what happens when we have all these qualities? This is a reflection of what is happening in the spiritual world. Say, for example, someone doesn't have affection of their mother from a very childhood. They cannot understand what is Mother Yashoda's feelings for Krishna, right? But a person who has been very affectionately raised from a very young age by his or her mother, then they can relate to the feelings of Mother Yashoda and Krishna. To some extent, of course, we are not talking about spiritual realizations, but they can relate to it. So, material piety is important, but again, it should help us to come to Krishna. If it is not helping us to come to Krishna, it is still aśubham. So, what Krishna is asking, what Krishna is stating here is this Sthita Prajñā, he raised his level from the material piety and impiety, but he is not disregarding the spiritual piety. And he is gaining his spiritual piety by engaging in Krishna consciousness, by engaging in devotional service. And Ishopanishad, Mantra 11, it explains that anyone who wants to know, who wants to get out of this material world, they need to have the knowledge about the nescience and the transcendental knowledge side by side. Why is it that we need to know side by side? Because we can see the disadvantages of the material knowledge, and at the same time, where is this transcendental knowledge taking us to? How is it is relieving us from the influence of these material miseries? Then Prabhupada writes in the Purport saying that Ishopanishad instructs us not to make one-side attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of nature are so hard and fast that do not allow anyone to surpass them. So we are able to see that we are trying to exploit, we are trying to enjoy the material energy, but it's still leaving people unsatisfied, leaving people with no peace. People are still searching for happiness. But the same thing, when they get this knowledge from Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavatam, Ishopanishad, from nectar of instruction or nectar of devotion, and when they apply this knowledge, people are automatically turning to be happy. And what is an example? Example is all of us, that we are seated here. We had this experience that we have experienced happiness to a smaller extent maybe, or to a greater extent. Because we have this tangible experience of this happiness, we are continuing to be in the bhakti-yoga, isn't it? If we don't have this tangible experience of happiness, would any one of us would be here? No. So Kṛṣṇa is telling us that, you tried all the ways, means to control these material miseries, stop birth, death, old age and disease, but you are not able to. Now the scientists are calling this is the advanced age of civilization. In this advanced age of civilization, what are they doing? They're trying to discover better nuclear bombs than in the past. But what is that nuclear bomb doing? Is it saving someone? Is it bringing happiness to any people? No. But it is accelerating the death rate very fast. So how are you solving the material miseries? But instead we are increasing the material miseries. But whereas we see the spiritual happiness, the spiritual knowledge, it is bringing spiritual happiness when we are practicing, and when we see the many senior devotees, when they leave the body. So how are they leaving the body? They don't have any fear. They know that this is a transition, and then they're very fixed up, and they know that they're going somewhere to serve Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's mission. They're very convinced. So how is that they are convinced, whereas the other people who are materially very advanced, they are not convinced about? Because they're living in this perfect knowledge. Prajñā pratiṣṭhitā. Now, Prabhupada also opens the purport using the word upheavals. What is upheaval means? There is a great change, and it involves a great amount of difficulty, anxiety. Now, can you name some of the upheavals in this world? Anyone? What are some of the upheavals? What are some of... Sorry? Wars, yes. What else? What is an upheaval?
Poverty.
Poverty is an upheaval, yes. Then?
Living in this material world is the upheaval task.
Yes. But can you specify, can you classify more examples? Wars is an upheaval, poverty is an upheaval, famine, drought is upheaval, heat, intense heat in the summer is an upheaval.
Lack of Kṛṣṇa consciousness.
Lack of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, yes, this is the biggest spiritual upheaval. This is not so easy. So basically, Prabhupada made it very clear, saying that these upheavals are like three: Adidaivika, Adibhautika, Adhyatmika. But there are many jnanis, they even go further up and they try to analyze these material miseries which are appearing in Adidaivika, Adibhautika, Adhyatmika. There is one logician named Bharasvarjana in Nyasasara. He said that the material misery is coming from 21 sources. There are 21 sources of one material misery. What are the 21 sources? One is the body, then we have the 6 senses, and then object of each sense. That is also causing us the material misery. And the judgment based on these 6 kinds of sensations. And then there is a pleasure, and then there is a pain. So these are the 21. You see 1, six senses, 6 objects of senses, then there's 6 judgment based on these senses, then there is pleasure, and then there's pain. There are 21 sources of material misery. But still we think we can fight over these material miseries. We think that we are confident that, with our given material education, with our given material prosperity, we can win over this material energy. Then in my personal study, I'm reading this chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. It's very intriguing, the more you read this chapter, it's very intriguing to the mind, because how Kṛṣṇa explains this whole material world using this banyan tree example. And then Prabhupada writes that this whole banyan tree is actually the upside down banyan tree is an example of the material world. Now the roots, they grow and spread everywhere, and the main root is coming from the Brahmaloka, right? That is from where the whole material creation is coming, the secondary creation. And then there is secondary roots, they're spreading everywhere. So the living entity is busy in engaging in fruitive activities. And there are leaves to these branches. Sorry, the branches are there. Now the branches are the 3 planetary systems, upper planetary system, middle planetary systems, and lower planetary systems. So the living entities are moving in these branches. Now in between there are leaves for these branches. What are these leaves? The Vedas. Now what are the Vedas are directing them to? You do this sacrifice, then you will get this gain. You do this one, then you will get this kind of economic development. You do this, you get this kind of sense gratification. And you do this, maybe you will get moksha. So they are redirecting. But people are forgetting the aim of the Vedas. They're just caught up into the what I can get out of these Vedas, how materially I can squeeze out of it. Now there are twigs to these branches, which are the sense objects. And at the tips are the senses. Now the tips and the twigs, they are always interlinked. The senses and the sense objects, they always want to stay together. So it's already very entangling. And then what is this nourished? This whole tree is nourished by some kind of water. And what is this water? The 3 modes of material nature. The gunas, which are binding the living entities. And these are pushing up and down. And it is pushing the living entity to make a certain decision, to act in a certain way, to acquire a certain kind of body. And then there are fruits. Now you're working hard, you're listening to the Vedas, you're entangled, you're moving up and down in the branches. Now you need some fruits. What are the fruits? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. These are the 4 fruits. And then, but there is a seed. And there is a seed of this tree. It is called desire. Because we want to compete with Kṛṣṇa, because we want to be like Kṛṣṇa, we want to lord it over the material nature, we come to this material world. It is only because of our desire, this whole banyan tree, this whole material world is nourishing. Just before Maharaj was closing the before chapter, Maharaj was explaining that how we are here because of our Ichha Shakti. Only because of our desire we are in this material world. So this banyan tree, Kṛṣṇa calls as avyayam. Avyayam in one sense means eternal. But then how is this eternal? Because it's perishable. But then Kṛṣṇa uses this word because to show that this is very continuous. You cannot measure by the time immemorial. But he gives this example to make us visualize and see that how we are entangled in this material world. And then Kṛṣṇa gives a solution for it. A shastrena, then he gives, you take one weapon. And what is that weapon? The weapon of detachment. Now detachment doesn't mean that we have to neglect everything. But detachment develops when someone hears from the bona fide speakers, from the authoritative sources, like the Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada writes in that purport detachment is developed by hearing from the authoritative sources. So this Sthita Prajñā, whom we are talking about, this liberated soul, he is very much fixed up in the soul and in the super soul, and he is able to engage in devotional service, and because of that he is experiencing this spiritual happiness, and that's why he is not affected by the happiness and the distress, the good and the evil that is produced by these sense objects, and that's why he is not wavered by happiness, lamentation and bewilderment. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also explains Kṛṣṇa bhakti nishkama atheva santa bhukti mukti siddhi khame sakala asanti. So only devotee of Lord Krishna is the most peaceful, is the only peaceful person. The rest all, whether you are a karmi, materialistic endeavoring person, or a jnani who is after the liberation, or the yogis, you are after the yogi siddhis, although you may achieve certain perfections, still you are not peaceful because your desire is very much self-centered. It is not Krishna-centered. And that is the problem of this material world. So again, the Sthita Prajñā, we have to take the mood of this Sthita Prajñā and see that how he is internalizing his focus on Bhagavan and his service to Kṛṣṇa. But because we are not on the stage of Sthita Prajñā, how can we develop? We should aspire to follow in the footsteps of what our acharyas have given us, what our acharyas have laid out for us, following the sadhana program. That alone will help us. Just like the example Prabhupada gives, on a tree, on a mango tree, there is a green mango. Unless and until the green mango is on the tree, one day it will get fruitified and it will become a ripe mango. Today it's unripe. But if we are following the process, then we will become ripe. Today I'm able, at least I could see, sometimes I'm lamenting, oh, I have so many anarthas, I'm so fallen. But instead of lamenting about it, if I can observe and see how much I'm putting my endeavor into good practices. Am I chanting attentively? Am I reading enough? Am I, practicing what it is described in the scriptures attentively? So if we can work out on that aspects instead of just lamenting about our anarthas or our aparadhas, then one day there is a hope that we will be also raised to this platform. Now there are many, many examples, contemporary examples that we see in our society. Many senior Vaishnavas, they started off very simple, but now they're very rich. They're rich in their realizations. They're rich in their wisdom. Why? Because they stuck to the process of what Srila Prabhupada has given to them. I was listening to Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami Maharaj. Maharaj was mentioning that we are fools. That's why Srila Prabhupada gave a foolproof system, so that he will protect us. The fools are protected from it. Foolproof system. So we have to follow the foolproof system that Prabhupada has given to us. Now, this bhakti of Kṛṣṇa is already in our hearts. It is not something that to be invented or discovered or brought about. This again Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Nitya Sriddha Kṛṣṇa Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Kare Udai. Now this is already in our hearts, but this is nourished by hearing and chanting. Now I was reading about Prahlad Maharaj in Brihad Bhagavatamritam. It's a very beautiful conversation that is happening between Narada Muni and Prahlad. Narada Muni was coming to Prahlad and is saying that, oh, you're the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And he hugs him. Now Prahlad is very ashamed. How could Narada Muni say something like this? That I am the greatest recipient of mercy. I'm not the greatest recipient of mercy. And then he starts to give different arguments why he's not the one. Then he says that, I am a child, but I don't know what is devotional service. But it is your greatness that you gave these instructions. That's why I was able to become a devotee. Now he is giving the credit to Kṛṣṇa and to the spiritual master, his spiritual master Narada Muni. Then he is saying that the instructions of these great devotees are so powerful that they can awake one's higher understanding and help us to engage in devotional service to Lord Hari. Now we see how Prahlad Maharaj received this education, this transcendental knowledge. Did he go to Narada Muni when he was young? No, he was in the womb. When Kayadu was protected by Narada Muni from the demigods, Narada Muni brought Kayadu to his ashram and he started to instruct. Prahlad was in the womb and he was listening. So Narada Muni, the potency of the spiritual master is that he is able to awaken the jiva even in such a dormant stage to the pure devotional service. Then Prahlad Maharaj continues to say that how is that you call someone as a mature person in devotional service? They understand that this mundane religiosity, sense gratification, economic development and impersonal liberation are of no use, and the real happiness lies only in devotional service. And then he starts to give further explanation saying that how he is not the right recipient, because he says that Lord appeared, but it was for a momentum. It was only for a moment the Lord appeared and he made me sit on his lap, he patted me on the head. But then he disappeared. Then he gave me a kingdom to rule. But whereas Hanuman is the actual real recipient of the mercy, because he was always giving instructions, the Lord was personally giving instructions to Hanuman to engage in devotional service. So Prahlad is saying that I am not the actual recipient of Krishna's mercy. But when we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he always used to go to Gadadhar Pandit and he used to always listen about Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. Now Prahlad Maharaj is an example of pure devotional service. But he projects that, I'm yet to be matured in the devotional service. So the devotional service has the capability of turning the most unqualified to qualified. We see even in the case of Gajendra, he is just an elephant, he is an animal. He never went to any schools, but still he was able to offer such beautiful prayers and attract the mercy of the Lord. The Lord Hari came upon and he rescued Gajendra. Then the most pious Ajamal, he has fallen down, but again by chanting the holy name, he got liberated. So what are some of the other examples of unqualified turned into the qualified? Anyone from the Shastra? Mrigari the hunter. Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat was already a realized soul.
In the past births, he has no idea of awareness and that much consciousness.
No, it was just slipped down, but again he picked up. He was a realized soul already.
He
was a king guard.
Yeah, Valmiki. What was his name? Ratnakar, Bhakti Ratnakar. And Narada Muni went and asked Bhakti Ratnakar, you are killing so much. Go and ask your family who is going to take the credit for all these things. The family said that we are not. You are obliged to, take care of us. Then it broke the Bhakti Ratnakar's heart. And then when he came back and told Narada Muni said that, okay, chant the name of Lord Ram. He said, I cannot chant the name of Lord Ram because it's not coming out. Then you recite Mara. Then slowly by reciting Mara, he became Ram, and then he got so many realizations that he was able to compile entire Ramayana. He became Valmiki and he compiled entire Ramayana. And also he raised Lava and Kusha the sons of Lord Ramachandra in his ashram. So this is the power of someone transcending from the most unqualified to the qualified. What are some other examples that we can see from the Jagai Madai? The most sinful, although they're materially very pious, categorized as most pious, but they became very impious, and then they have most fallen. And then they were delivered by Lord Nityananda and Chaitanya. So we see the examples how this is, a Vaishnava is very, very powerful to turn even the most fallen into a Vaishnava. So Sthitaprajñā here, he's showing that because he's fixed up in his Kṛṣṇa consciousness so deeply, his speech, he controlled his speech that he doesn't have any affection for praising and dismissing anything in this material world. His affection is only for the spiritual things, only for Kṛṣṇa conscious activities. So are there any questions or comments or corrections? You're most welcome. I close here. Yes, Mataji.
Whenever we
Sorry.
become detached for a while, I think it is the power of manifestation
Mm-hmm.
in one's mind. So why this is offered? If there is no need of material things and life.
We need material things. We use the body and the material things in the service of Krishna.
It goes to yoga and
Tyaga, yeah. In the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada also writes about this pendulum. Like, the living entity is always moving like sometimes bhoga, sometimes tyaga, sometimes bhoga, sometimes tyaga. We have this tendency because we are marginal. We always have this tendency to move back and forth. But once we are fixed in devotional service, especially after anatta nivritti into the nishta stages, you're fixed up in the bhakti, then you don't move so much. But anatta nivritti is a tough place because there's so many things are coming, sometimes we like, sometimes we don't like. So, but this is the process of purification. So irrespective of what is coming, we have to take guidance and then move forward in our Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, it is there.
all the shastras said that mind has created everything
Mm.
around us,
Mm.
around itself, and ego has brought everything around it.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is no need of using it, why this manifestation power has given to
Us.
that mind?
We have the use. We have to use the mind.
There might be any root cause.
No, we have the use.
Creates itself.
See, now the platform that we are functioning is on the false ego, ahankara. So this ahankara is a manifestation of me identifying with my body and senses, right? So this is a wrong identification. Until and unless I don't get out of this platform, I will act on this false ego. So you cannot live without ego. Either you have true ego or false ego. Your true ego means you are servant of Kṛṣṇa. Your false ego means you are the center of the universe. Like we take an example of Hanuman. When Hanuman went to Lanka, he was acting on the true ego. He got angry, he burnt whole Lanka, but that is not to give some pleasure to him. But he wanted to show that if one single monkey of Lord Ram can create such a devastation in Lanka, what could whole Ram's army would do to you? It was a warning that was given to Ravana, right? So he wanted to show that he was acting on the true ego. There also there was a display of anger. There was also a display of intelligence because Hanuman is thinking, how should I show it? So he's using his mind, he's using his intelligence, he's using his ego, but in Lord Ram's service. So we are in the training ground. We are not on that, maybe I am not on that platform. But with every lesson, with each day, we pray, we try to change our ego from false to the true. And we engage our mind and intelligence. We need intelligence, we need mind, because we need to think, feel, will about the right things. And this is where our minute independence lies, whether we want to choose Kṛṣṇa or not. If we are not given that, then we become robotic. I can put a gun on you and I say that, now love me. It is very mechanical. But what is Kṛṣṇa doing? Kṛṣṇa gives you all the apparatus and he's saying that, now it's your choice. You want to choose Maya, you want to choose me. So this is where his love is there, his free will is there. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you so much for this very nice class. So you mentioned mundane religiosity.
Yeah.
So I've heard, Srila Prabhupada on one hand praise many different religions, and we identify as non-sectarian. And so then on another hand, he's very critical of these other religions.
Right.
So would you say that these mundane religions are aśubham?
Yes.
And I've also heard the term imperfect Christian conscious. I just would like to hear your thoughts on these.
This is in Canto 7 of the Bhagavatam. I believe this is in the 15th chapter or 14th chapter, where you talk about different kinds of irreligion. There are 4 kinds or 5 kinds. You give me a minute. See, Prabhupada, whenever he's going and appreciating people, he's encouraging people to practice their own religion, but he's also telling them to practice religion according to what is given in their scriptures. Like an example, Prabhupada challenged even the Pope, saying that, you're teaching Christianity, you're teaching the teachings of Bible, but you're not telling them what does it mean that toe shall not be killed, right? So a distortion from what is said in the scriptures is irreligiosity. So Prabhupada is condemning that part. But if someone has a faith and someone is a true Christian, true Muslim or true Hindu practitioner or true Jain, they will know the essence. So Prabhupada is asking them to draw them to the actual, what is described in the scriptures. So he is critical because he is condemning that this has not to do anything with the religiosity. Real religion means surrendering unto the God and accepting his word. But we use God for many things, right? We make business deals with Kṛṣṇa. At least I came from a Hindu background growing up. I always went to temple and made business deals. Kṛṣṇa, if I get marks, I will get you this one. Kṛṣṇa, if I get visa, I will give you this one. I always made these business deals. Unless and until I came to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, I never appreciated what I was wrong at and how beautiful is Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Here we are learning to develop this loving relationship with Kṛṣṇa. So anything that is not facilitating a jiva's loving relationship with Kṛṣṇa, that is irreligiosity. Because it's still putting them in the loop of this bodily concepts. But this is 5 kinds. I will show you this one. One second. Yeah, this is, sorry, I thought I found it. Yeah, this is 7, 15, 12. This is in the 7th canto, 15th chapter, 12th verse. There are 5 branches of irreligion, appropriately known as irreligion: vidharma, paradharma, abhasa, upadharma, and chaladharma. If you see, they all look very much religious, but they are not religion. because there are many concoctions mixed in it. So you can read this one. It's actually the cheating propensities that we put through the religion. So yeah, that is what Prabhupada is condemning. That is my understanding only. Thank you, Prabhupada. If there are no questions, we'll close. Thank you. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.